Donald Trump has returned to the White House and the world is once again watching closely. The corridors of power are buzzing with anticipation, and global leaders are preparing for major shifts in U.S. foreign policy from an unpredictable president. The ripple effects of Trump's return are already being felt across the Atlantic and Europe. From the bustling streets of Paris to the historic avenues of London, people are wondering what this means for Europe. Trump's America First rhetoric and unpredictable foreign policy will have a significant impact on international relations. His nationalist-oriented foreign policy will send ripples through global diplomacy, prompting allies and adversaries alike to adjust to a new world order. Trump's stance on tariffs and his critical view of NATO is out of line with what has been consistent in U.S. foreign policy since the end of the Second World War. These positions are expected to be core aspects of his governance. With his return, these policies are back in focus, causing concern for diplomats and economists worldwide, but especially in Europe. Trump's second presidency is a wake-up call for Europe. It highlights the fact that geopolitical landscapes can change rapidly, and that reliance on a single ally can be a risky proposition. Europe is now forced to confront a reality. They cannot always rely on the U.S. to be the global leader, an economic partner, and a dependable ally. Europe now has to start thinking about its own security, its own economic stability, and its own place in the world. This realization, while initially challenging, might just be in Europe's best interests. It can force a newfound sense of independence, a drive to innovate, and a determination to stand on its own. Europe's dependence on the United States is an anomaly in the continent's history. For centuries, Europe was the dominant force in the world, leading cultural, technological, political, and economic innovations and changes in the world. The United States' abandonment of Europe might force the Europeans to realize that maybe they're better off pursuing their own geopolitical direction in a world that is increasingly multipolar. The Europeans will need to find strength in unity, in their own capabilities, and in the realization that they can forge their own path, independent of the unpredictable dynamics of the United States. There are signs that Europe has already taken steps in this direction. Now, Europe hasn't suddenly transformed into a militaristic superpower, but the continent has shown signs that it is willing to take more responsibility for its own defense. While Europe hasn't exactly been churning out tanks and fighter jets at an unprecedented rate, the production lines of its defense industries are certainly busier than they used to be. There has also been a noticeable shift in attitude. European leaders are now more frequently discussing defense strategies and military budgets. Germany, a country hesitant to increase its military presence due to its militaristic legacies from the two world wars, has boosted its defense spending. This is a significant turning point for a country that has been imbued with a somewhat naive pacifism since the end of the Cold War. These changes have been a surprising change in a familiar setting, unexpected but indicative of a broader shift. It signals a change in the collective European mindset. This newfound focus on defense isn't just about demonstrating strength, it's about self-preservation. European nations are conducting more joint military exercises and investing in advanced defense systems. With Russia posing a significant threat and the US focusing more on its internal affairs, Europe is realizing that it needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet militarily speaking. The geopolitical landscape is shifting and Europe is adapting. Europeans are living in a neighborhood with rising security concerns, and their strongest ally, who always promised security guarantees, has suddenly become less reliable. Understandably, Europeans are feeling vulnerable. In response, Europeans are investing in better security for themselves in order to secure its own future in an increasingly uncertain world. The situation in Ukraine is a tragedy, but amidst the devastation there's a glimmer of hope. The conflict has shown the world that Europe can act in unison when it wants to. They can and will band together when it matters most. The EU has been unwavering in its support for Ukraine, providing financial aid, military equipment, and humanitarian assistance. This is a demonstration that Europe can coordinate its geopolitical maneuvering, something that Russia was hoping to frustrate by causing divisions in the European effort to help Ukraine. Europe is not just coordinating their military efforts, they are coordinating their economic efforts as well. On the economic front, the EU has devised comprehensive plans. They are strategizing on multiple levels to ensure economic resilience. They are not just building metaphorical walls to counter external threats, they are also constructing economic fortresses to withstand global instability. This involves creating robust financial systems. The European Commission is developing plans for financial growth and defense self-sufficiency. They are focusing on long-term strategies to ensure they can stand independently. They are discussing boosting domestic industries, ensuring that key sectors are strong and capable of meeting internal demands. This includes reducing reliance on foreign powers, which marks a significant shift in their policy. They are also working towards a more integrated European economy, promoting closer cooperation between EU member states and a unified approach to economic challenges. The Europeans are adapting to contemporary needs. The upcoming tariff wars and trade tangles represent pressures placed on Europe from both the United States and China. Now, let's not sugarcoat things. Achieving economic independence won't be easy. Europe's caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war between the US and China. The US has been assertive in its trade policies, while China's economic influence continues to grow. Europe's walking a tightrope here between the two. They need to maintain good relationships with both superpowers while also charting their own course. Europe has to try and mediate a complex negotiation between two strong-willed parties, while also looking out for its own interests. It's challenging, it's intense, and there's a good chance of facing significant obstacles. Europe finds itself in this balancing act while navigating economic uncertainty in a turbulent world. So how can Europe navigate this economic landscape? They will need to employ innovative strategies. Diversifying trade partners is essential, as is investing in innovation and technology, and strengthening internal markets. The options for Europe are limited and unappealing. Europeans would naturally seek out better choices, but things are what they are. Europe must identify and capitalize on hidden economic opportunities. We may be entering an era where Europe says goodbye to Uncle Sam and engage in its own quest for independence. Now, you might be wondering, is this the end of the US-European partnership? Well, it depends. If the US continues to focus on its own interests, Europe might consider exploring relationships with other global powers. But this isn't necessarily a negative outcome. A more independent Europe could contribute positively to global affairs, promoting multilateralism, diplomacy, and an international order not so aligned with American interests. It might be a little jarring at first, but ultimately, it may turn out to be a positive development. It is important for the Europeans to understand that there will be a price to this freedom, with many challenges presenting themselves on the path to geopolitical autonomy. Achieving true autonomy will not be an easy task. Europe faces significant internal challenges: economic disparities between member states, political divisions within existing member states, and the ongoing threat of Russia. It will be difficult reaching consensus on a continent where different states have different perspectives on the best approach going forward, timelines and priorities. The path to autonomy is complex and requires careful navigation. A stronger, more united Europe will see potential benefits in going it alone. Europe has faced and overcome numerous challenges in the past, from economic crises and political upheavals to numerous devastating conflicts. Throughout these experiences, Europe has emerged stronger and more united. With greater autonomy, the potential benefits for Europe are significant. This includes becoming more self-reliant, resilient, and influential. A Europe that confidently stands up for its values and interests on the global stage. This vision of Europe is indeed something to aspire to. American abandonment could indeed usher in a new golden age for Europe.